It's so good to see you.
So good to see you too. How are you doing?
Doing good. Doing good. I think the cool evenings here has kind of helped ease everybody's stresses. Just being able to sleep well and everything. It's been really, really beautiful weather.
Absolutely. I think that Granada and Asheville kind of have a similar weather.
Hmm.
And yeah, we finally have been getting some nice cooler evenings and I think although today's kind of hot. Today's
Yeah.
up there in the temperature, but
It doesn't get that cold there, does it? Like
I
it
mean,
doesn't snow.
well, not I guess not as much as you guys get snow,
Hmm.
but we do have snow in the mountains that I can
Oh,
see.
nice.
And we've had like one or two times where it snowed here in the city, but just like a
Oh.
sprinkling. So, but you could definitely wear wool here, so that's good.
Hmm. Nice.
Yeah. So my first question, well, let me introduce you. So this is
Okay.
Maria. For anyone who does not
Hi.
know Maria of Ninja Chickens, you are an herbalist, an eco printer,
Hmm.
a knitter, a crocheter, a designer, a mama, a
Yep.
nurse, so many things. But I would like you to maybe introduce yourself, or if there's anything I was missing there. Are you also a midwife? Did I forget that?
I studied midwifery.
Okay.
And in studying midwifery, I realized that what I really liked about it was the herbs. And so I ended up, I worked as a nurse for a while so I could pay my bills and went to herb school. And that's how I found it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Very cool. And where are you? So you're in Asheville, right?
I'm just a few miles outside of Asheville, but this area in North Carolina has a lot of mountains. So you can go from, I don't know, maybe 2,000 feet up to over 6,000 feet above sea level. And so I'm probably just under 3,000 feet sea level. So we actually have pretty different weather from Asheville. We get a lot more snow. I'm in a little cove, so we get a lot of rain. Um, but yeah, I'm on about 25 acres, and on two sides of us, there's a lot more acreage. So we have lots of woods around us. It's really lovely.
Yeah. Anyone who hasn't seen your videos recently, you've been doing a lot of walks through the woods, which is really
Hmm.
beautiful to go collect mushrooms. And and also you have a really cool video explaining about your house, which is absolutely beautiful and the way that you built up your very cool house. So
Yeah, it's a really funky house. And because I've lived in it for so many years, I forget how that it's funky, but it's got 16 sides on the bottom and 8 sides on the top. So it kind of looks like a wedding cake. And part of it is underground, so it stays cool. And the south side of it is made with cordwood. So just like chopping wood for a fire, it's made with big pieces of wood um, that helps keep the cool air in the summer and the hot air in the winter. Yeah, it's a fun house.
it's a nice house. I will leave down below the link to the video where you give us a tour and show everything because it is really
Cool.
cool. Very nice. So, I wanted to ask you about your life as a knitter and how you got into working with fiber, and maybe you could tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, and excuse any scratching in the background. I have a cat at my door who's wanting to get in.
Oh, if you want to let him in, no problem.
Well, this cat in particular, I have four, and he likes to get into mischief. So if he comes in, he knocks stuff over and
Okay.
tears stuff apart. So I'll let him stay out. But so as far as knitting, I'm sorry, I turned that off and it still came in.
That's okay. I didn't hear anything or see
You
anything.
didn't? Oh, okay. I hear a big ding in the background. Um, so knitting started for me around the same time as herbalism did. I was actually in nursing school, and my partner and I at the time were hit head on by a drunk driver, and it was a nasty accident. But luckily, we were fine, just really badly bruised. So my best friend taught me how to knit while I was on bed rest for a little while.
Wow.
And I loved it. I was super excited about making all the shawls for everyone or all the scarves for holiday gifts. But she didn't actually really know how to knit. And I didn't know that until I really learned how to knit. So I was purling backwards and I was knitting the wrong way. So every time I tried to follow a pattern, it would just be a mess. So I really wanted to make something for my partner for the holidays. So I thought I'm just going to make him a really pretty red blanket. And I started, just basically a big swatch of fabric, and I thought, oh, I'm going to make it really pretty at the top, and I'm going to put some lace or something in it. So I tried to do yarn overs, knit two together, and just make it up as I go. And the whole thing just became a pocket. So I was like, it's like a sleeping bag where you can stick your toes.
It's perfect.
Right. So it was probably not for maybe another 15 years until I really got into it when I was pregnant with my son. So that was 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I started, I went to a friend's house, and she was like, look, I'll teach you how to knit, and you can make some hats, and we'll figure out in the round and all this stuff. So I made this little strawberry hat, learned how to cast on and knit in the round and all that stuff. And it was just, I don't know if it was pregnancy hormones or what, but I was within months knitting unicorn stuffed animals and all kinds of, like a fish hat for my husband, and it clicked and I loved it. So yeah, I've been knitting for 25 plus years now, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah.
And do you work with fiber in any way besides knitting, like crochet? I think you do a little bit, right?
I know how to do a really simple stitch in crochet, just enough that I could do a granny blanket, but that's about all. My best friend is really good at crocheting, so maybe she'll teach me how to do some. But right now it's mostly knitting. Yeah.
And weaving or anything like that?
Just on like a little bitty handmade loom, or I have a neighbor who is, he's a carpenter, and he made me a circular loom so that I could make cool spiral stuff, but not a whole lot. Mostly the knitting, yeah.
Mainly knitting. Very nice, very nice. And what about like eco-printing and dyeing? Did that happen at the same time kind of as herbalism, like from the beginning, or?
No, so with the herbalism, when you're making oils or salves or tinctures or anything, often you'll see beautiful colors come out of the plants when you're, especially with tincturing and alcohol. And so I would notice, I think the one that stood out the most is St. John's wort, which has a beautiful yellow flower, and the flower turns bright red in oil or tincture. Mm-hmm. And I just thought, that's so cool. I wonder what it would do on yarn. And that kind of got me into it. When Leaf was a year old, I dyed him a really cute little vest with marigolds and lichen that we just scraped off of some downed branches. And it was the most beautiful, rich, buttery yellow. Mm-hmm. And, when you get something like that, you just want to keep creating more and finding what other colors you can make from nature.
Absolutely. I think it's incredible, like all of the colors that come from plants and insects and lichen and lots of different things. But it always creates these beautiful shades of color that you can't even describe. And a lot of times I feel like in a photograph, you can't even show anyone because
it never does it justice. In person, it's always so much more beautiful. And they never look bad together. Like with a lot of chemical colors, you can put two together and be like, yeah, that just doesn't go. I've never seen two naturally dyed colors that just don't look beautiful together. They always go really well.
Absolutely. I don't know. Maybe I heard that from you at one point saying that, but that's something that I'm always saying. I'm like, any color that you can get from nature is going to look beautiful together. It's like if you go out into the forest and you see like oranges and reds and purples and greens and browns, they all look so nice together.
Yeah. Nature knows how to do it.
Exactly. So very nice. Very cool. Very cool.
Sorry, I had to let Oreo in because he just wouldn't stop. So.
Oh, very good.
He better be good.
See, I've got my Oso. This is like his nap time. It's the afternoon here, so he's under the bed sleeping, but he might wake up soon and have something.
His name's Oso?
Oso, which is bear.
That's bear, isn't it? Yeah.
Because when he was a little puppy, he just looked like a little white polar bear.
Aw.
We named him Bear. Oso, yeah. So very nice, very nice. And so I'm really interested in the plants and the herbalism and everything. So I wanted to ask you, about ghost pipe because I knew that you were.
I brought some because I knew you were wanting to chat about that.
Did you? Okay, yeah. So I've never seen ghost pipe in the wild, and I've just heard about it, and I can't even remember what I've heard about it. But I'm curious what you can tell me about.
Well, so I learned about ghost pipe when I was in herb school, and I tried it in school, but I actually have never seen it in the wild, which I think is kind of crazy because it grows fairly well here. In this area of North Carolina, it's one of the most abundant plant biomes. There's just a really rich amount of herbal medicine here. And so sometimes when I hear, a plant is rare, I'm like, really? Because I see it all the time. Like, oh, lady slipper, pink lady slipper. We have that all over the place around here, but in general, it's very rare. So, so I was surprised that I had not seen ghost pipe. And I don't know, maybe a month and a half ago, I was walking in my woods and I was like, there it is. I've never seen it before. And it's a really cool plant because it only grows in the presence of certain mycorrhiza, like mushroom mycorrhiza and trees. It doesn't produce, so if you haven't seen it, it's like this little candy cane that's white with a flower on the end. That's kind of what it looks like. It's all white, almost translucent white, sometimes slightly pink. And it doesn't produce any chlorophyll. It doesn't produce any food. Like, it's basically a parasite. And it tricks the mycorrhiza underneath it into thinking it's a tree. And so it shares nutrients with it. And it gets everything from the trees and the plant, or trees and the mycorrhiza around it. And the only thing it will do on its own is produce a seed that then gets carried on the wind and waits in the soil till it finds the right mycorrhiza to feed it.
Oh, wow.
Cool. Yeah. So, so they really are ghostly looking. Like, they're just this pale white. And medicinally, and some people have eaten them, they say they're kind of like asparagus, but I wouldn't want to eat it. Like, it's rare and you don't find it around much. So I thought, okay, if I find some more, I'm gonna try and gather some and tincture it, because I've been wanting to have that as medicine. And I went out, I guess it was just a few days ago, 4 or 5 days ago, and that was my point. And I said, okay, Woods, if you're willing to share, I would love to have some of this for medicine. And part of the reason is because it's a really good pain medicine, but it's not the kind of pain medicine like an Advil that you just gets rid of your pain. It kind of helps you step outside of your pain. So you still feel it, but you don't care. You can work through it. But it's not just physical pain, it's emotional pain. So people who are deeply grieving or having really, really strong anxiety or worries, it helps you step outside of it so you can evaluate and look at it better, which is really cool, and something like a medicine that's, I think, really needed right now. Yeah. So I went out into the woods and I found 3 really big patches of it where I'd never seen it before. And so I was like, okay, just 2 little pieces from you and a couple little pieces from you. And that way they all continue to grow and produce a lot more. And hopefully we'll have more in the woods.
Wow, that's amazing. So, I now that you're saying that, I think that I have heard about this, that it kind of, it helps with pain in this way, that you kind of separate from your pain. And
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I don't have any fresh, but I have the tincture and I wanted to show this to you. I'm hoping we can capture it. So
is it like black, purple?
It's purple. It's like a deep, beautiful purple. Let me see. I'm going to hold it to the light and see if it'll come through.
That isn't, I mean, I kind of saw the purple on there, but that's incredible because it's totally white.
Right. And the funny thing is, it's so beautiful. It bruises easily. So they say when you get it, you should actually snip it and put it directly into alcohol. Like, you don't just want to carry it around, and because they say it can kind of fall apart. This was pretty tough, but within a day, this was a pale purple, and now it's like beautiful violet. It's really cool.
Oh my gosh.
And again, where does that color come from? Because it's all white.
Oh my gosh, nature is amazing.
Yeah, I'm excited to try it.
Yeah, and I think it's really special that you found it now, and I think that a lot of people are going through a lot of things this year. I don't know, sometimes I feel like nature gives us more abundance of a certain plant if it's going to be healthy.
What we need.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of mullein, which I think is interesting now too because of the lungs, and also I feel like the lungs are related to grief, and so
Absolutely. Yeah.
amazing, beautiful. And what else? I saw that you were doing some experiments with the mushrooms for natural dyeing as well.
Yeah. So I know a couple of mushrooms, or I guess at the beginning of the season, I knew a few edibles because they were so obvious, like they didn't have anything that looked like them, and I knew I was safe to eat them. But I've really started getting into them a lot more because it's been a very wet summer and beginning of fall-ish, I guess, here. And so they're all over the place. And being at home, we're in the States, at least in North Carolina, we're staying pretty close to home now. There's not a whole lot of going out still because of the virus. And so I've been on my land a lot, and I've just seen mushrooms everywhere, purple and pink and yellow and red, and they're just fun to get to know. So I found one that I thought was a mushroom called Dyer's polypore, and there was a bunch of it. So I thought, well, I have a little bit of yarn. I'll try dyeing with it. And the color that came out into the bath before I put the yarn in looked like orange, and that's the color I was expecting. But when I put the yarn in, it went gray, like this really beautiful gray.
Mm-hmm.
And a friend of mine was like, that's not Dyer's polypore. I think that's in the Hydnellum variety. So I looked that up and compared pictures and found this one called Hydnellum concrescens, I think is how you pronounce it. And it can become greenish and teal when you adjust the pH a little bit. So I actually have some here. So this is what I ended up with.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that amazing? It was a brown mushroom and it made this really beautiful green. It's like the perfect sage.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's what I'm seeing here. My computer, I don't know if the colors are that good, but I see a sage. Beautiful.
Yeah, so that was exciting. So now I want to dye with all the mushrooms.
Yeah, mushrooms are really interesting, and I don't know, I definitely respect the whole fungi. It's a really, really interesting kingdom, but I'm definitely a little bit scared to work with them because I feel like fungi, you never know. You never know, and it's hard to, like with plants, I really feel safe about plants because there are very few plants that can kill you, and kind of it's a lot easier to identify them and know which ones.
Yeah.
But if you've got somebody around you, you get some books and you just start learning and just with caution.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've discovered there are more of the edible mushrooms on our land that really don't have anything that looks like it, or if they do have something that looks like it, it's either just not that tasty or it's not poisonous. So that's been fun, finding black trumpet and chanterelles, and I just found a big poplar that had some oyster mushrooms on it, and chicken of the woods. Like all these things are coming up, which is really cool.
Very nice. Have you seen any lion's mane around you?
I haven't, but I have some logs that I inoculated last spring, I guess, with some with shiitake, some with lion's mane, and some with chicken of the woods. And none of them have started producing yet, but hopefully they will. I had a downed wild cherry tree, so I'm hoping that they'll be okay in that type of wood, because some of them just grow better in one type of wood versus another. So we'll see.
Very nice. Very interesting. So it's a whole learning experience.
Yeah.
Very cool. And speaking of that, that was something else I wanted to talk about homeschooling, because I know that you talked a lot about having your kids at home throughout portions of their education. And I know that a lot of people this year and last year have been having to have their kids at home with education. And I was wondering if you had any words of wisdom or some advice for parents who are trying to teach their kids at home.
Yeah. Well, first I have to say that homeschooling and virtual education are like extremely different. Homeschooling my kids was my curriculum. It was what they wanted to work with. It was very flexible. And right now we're virtual schooling because both kids wanted to, well, my daughter is a senior and she wanted to go to normal school for 1 year, and this happened. And my son just thrives with people. And it was getting to the point where he was old enough that I was driving everywhere to try and get him to group classes and stuff. So he is also going to school. And virtual schooling has taken me more time than homeschooling did, because I have to be there with him, help him, you know, if Zoom crashes, or make sure he's on at 9, then 10, then 11, you know. But it's someone else's schedule. We have to follow their learning, do it the way they're doing it, which might not be the way he learns. So, man, I have full respect for all the parents who are out there doing virtual learning with their kids right now. It's not easy, especially for those parents who have to work.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
you know, their kids are needing to either stay at home, or, you know, while they're gone to work, or they're not able to do the lessons the way they need to, or they don't have the computer access or whatever. It's just crazy. But all that being said, one thing I did learn from homeschooling was kids learn at their own pace. They are natural sponges, and they will always, they'll get it, you know. And if this year ends up being not the best year for them, and they don't learn as much as you want them to, they will learn, you know. And I was so stressed out when I first started homeschooling my daughter, and I felt like she's not reading what she's supposed to be reading, because everybody said, oh yeah, most kids like to start reading at 5 or 6 or whatever. She had no interest. You know,
Yeah.
she was a perfectionist, and she thought, if I can't pronounce that word and read it right, I'm just not going to do it. And she didn't start reading till she was 9. And when she did start reading, she went straight to a 5th grade level reading, because she was ready for it.
Yeah.
So I guess the words of advice for any parents out there are, this is a time that, you know, is different than any of us have ever seen or gone through before. And I say, support your kids the best you can, particularly their mental health. And if they don't get done what they need to get done this year, that's fine. They'll pick it up. They'll learn it.
Absolutely. No,
Yeah.
I think it's really important. And I feel like it's just been really, I don't know how in the States, but here in Spain, it's just been so chaotic, and so many families feeling a lot of stress and knowing how to move forward with things. But like you said, kids are really resilient and really smart, and they're like sponges, and they will learn it, and maybe it will take longer, or they'll be focused maybe on one thing, but it'll all work out.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
very nice. Very good. Okay. So other things. I also want to talk about your designing and all of the patterns that you've created. I have a few of your creations here with me. I've got the little hot, but I've got my hat, which I don't know if you can see because it's very blood. But yes, this is a Ninja Chicken's design. Very beautiful. And I've got this is the best of all of the designs ever. I would put it on right now, but it's just too hot.
It's too hot. Yeah, we need some good snow for that.
I'm so excited to wear it. This is the seer cloak. And I have to say that knitting this pattern was probably, and test knitting it too, so I was like really careful not to like go off and do something crazy.
Yeah.
But I think that it was like the pattern that really got me feeling confident enough to steek and to just do so many tables and all this color.
Kind of got a little bit of everything in there.
I fell in love with the Latvian braid, and yeah, so this was probably the project that I'm the most proud of, this amazing cloak.
Aww,
so yeah.
Thank you. It's beautiful.
It is. I love it. So tell me about your designing. Have you been designing longer than you've had your podcast?
Yes, but it's all been like, I don't know, it's hard to consider myself a designer. I know I design patterns, but it's not like, it's not like a profession. It's kind of, if I see something that I want and I can't really find it out there, I'll make it. Or, the first thing I designed, I simply did, I don't even know, no, Ravelry wasn't around yet. I just put it on my blog because at the time I was blogging, and my daughter was, I think, 5 at the time, and she was super into fairies and mermaids and sparkly things.
Greatest
So
thanks.
I made this little skirt for her that just had these spirals on it and these beads on the end, and it was crazy looking. And like, if I were to do it now, I would do it totally differently because I had no idea what I was doing. But what I ended up creating, because you do it all with math, is something that anyone can wear, even adults. In fact, there's a number of adults who've knitted at this point, because
Really?
you just measure your waist and cast on, you know, according to your gauge, and then you just keep increasing with this little pearl spiral, basically. So that
I
was
don't think
fun.
I've seen that. I'm gonna have to.
It's the first thing on the Ravelry page.
Really? Okay, I gotta go
Yeah,
look at that because that's one thing I've been wanting to make, a skirt or pants
yeah,
or something
it's
like.
fun. It's
Oh,
fun. Yeah.
nice.
So I just did a few things for the kids, and I did these little ice skates that I remember having when I was a kid. One of my neighbors knit them for me, and it's just this tiny little ice skate, and they had paper clips on the bottom. And so you could take them and put them on top of a piece of paper and move a magnet and pretend like they're skating around. And I just thought they were so cool. We would hang them on our Christmas tree. So
Wow.
that was one of the, like the second or third pattern. And then after that, it you know, kind of took off because I was really enjoying knitting a lot, and had a lot of fun ideas to put out there. But
Very nice.
yeah, it's just kind of inspired. It's not something that I'm trying to continually knit a pattern or design a pattern. It's just, oh, that would be nice. I wonder if that's out there, and if not, I'll try it.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
And your most recent pattern, I saw that it was in Maker magazine. Am I right?
Making stories.
Making stories.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's fine.
Um, and this is like a really big like shawl that
It's massive.
and you have been working on that for a long time, right? Like a year, or am I?
No, I started working on it because with a magazine, you usually, you know, it's usually a year beforehand where you send in an idea, and then you knit it, you show it off, they approve it, then the test knitters knit it. Like it's a long process. So I think it was about a year and a half ago that I actually knit the shawl. And I made it out of some yarn that I had from a natural dyer,
Mm-hmm.
and just made, you know, used up every bit of the skeins. And so I kind of showed that to them, and they were like, oh, I like that idea, because you start with a certain number of stitches, and as you build, you can follow the directions, or you can find your own pattern, like a 6-stitch pattern or an 8-stitch pattern, and you can put that in there, and you can kind of change colors when you want to. So it's kind of like a choose your own adventure, which is fun.
Oh, I love that. I
Yeah.
think that's really good in a pattern. That's something that I kind of end up doing when I'm knitting someone else's pattern because I'm always adapting it to what I've got or what happens with my mistakes. I'm just like, yeah, that'll be okay. Very cool. Very nice. And what
Yeah.
are you knitting these days? I know that maybe you were like in summer, you were kind of not knitting as much, but have you gotten
Yeah. I finally cast it on one more thing. So I knit, gosh, it's rare that I take a break from knitting. And usually if I take a break, I'll spin one, you know, skein of yarn or something. I'll spin a little something like a palette cleanser, and then I'll cast something else on. I rarely have too many things. Like some people have 20 projects going at one time. I might have 2, maybe 3. But I didn't have anything most of the spring and summer. I knit one hat, which Mars of Hey Brown Berry had put out, called Unchained, which is a really beautiful hat. And I thought that would be a perfect winter hat. And I've been wanting to cast on a sweater that I have an idea for. And so I finally did that. I'll show you, I've got it here. I cast on the sleeves. I'm doing them 2 at a time. And this idea I have is for kind of another one for math, where you take all your measurements, like everything, and you adjust the pattern as you go.
Mm.
So this is, oh, look at those pretty little stitch markers.
Oh, beautiful.
So that's the arm ribbing. It's got a little bitty twist on each one. And then this is where the pattern's going to start.
Very
And
nice.
what I want to do, I'll show you.
That wool is beautiful as well.
It's really lovely. So this is the cable. I'm
Okay.
gonna make it, I think I'm gonna extend it one more time, like make it a little bit broader, and then go back up. And this will go along the arm. So this will probably be like
Oh,
up probably to about the elbow. And then you'll just have these two little cables up
oh,
the upper arm. Yeah.
mhm.
And then I'm thinking the same thing, this right here for the ribbing around the waist, but it's not all going to stop at the same time. You know, where ribbing is like, oh, 2 inches of ribbing, and then you begin your body. I think maybe I'll drop some of them, but continue a few of them up, kind of staggered here and there into the body. You know, we'll see.
Nice.
Yeah.
So this is like a build your own sweater type thing, and it's
Yeah, it's
from.
not going to be like a written pattern. Here's everything. It's kind of, I think I'm just going to make a video and say, follow along, you take your measurements. People can even choose one of their favorite sweaters and build it to their own body shape. Yeah.
Very nice. It's like a recipe. Kind
Yeah.
of.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Because
Does it?
people, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna ask if it had a name. Does it have a name yet? Not yet.
Yeah.
Very nice. Yes, and I think that people like that because people are constantly modifying things anyway because no one has the same body shape.
Well,
So
that's the thing, you know, some people's backside's a little bigger than you know, the front.
their
Some people
arm
have
is
larger
longer,
chests than their
shorter.
arm. Right. So if you have your measurements, you can build it exactly as you want, and hopefully it'll fit you really well.
Very cool. And so it's bottom up, and you start with the sleeves from the bottom up also?
Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. Because if I have the sleeves knit, then you never get on Sleeve Island. You know, like people always talk about knitting the body and then they do one sleeve at a time and they never feel like they finish. So I'm doing both sleeves and then they're going to be done first. And I'll just do them to right about here. And then once the body is knit, I can just add them right on in.
Mm-hmm. And the
Yeah,
sleeve kind of works as your swatch,
exactly.
which is my favorite because I don't
Yeah.
like swatching.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you're knitting the sleeve. If you want to, if you knit the sweater in the round, you're knitting the sleeve in the round. So you're really getting a better swatch. Because I know some people will try and knit flat and just carry the yarn behind to, you know, simulate a knit in the round, but I never get the same gauge that way.
No, my gauge is always all over the place, and it's never my swatch is never the same. I don't know.
Yeah.
Very nice. Okay. And so out of all of your years of knitting and your creating, do you have a favorite project or a project that like fills you with the most pride?
Well, I love the seer cloak just because it's just magical. Like the whole thing that went into it was such a collaboration with the test knitters, with a friend of mine who's an artist who drew this beautiful picture, a woman who's a poet who wrote this poem about Red Riding Hood. Like it felt like a hug. The whole project, as well as wearing it just felt really good. But I think the thing I'm probably most proud of is my first big pattern, which was called Drekken, and that was a shawl. That really took me out of my comfort zone, and it took a long time to make because I was working with lace and brioche, and it's a really, really big shawl. So figuring out how to put it all together, how to just do brioche in the center and use 2 needles here with 1 needle there, like it was kind of crazy mathematics. But when it was done, I really loved it, and I was so excited that it came out. And it had happened. I made it because I'd had a dream about a dragon, and I was like, "Wow, that would look so cool if you had a shawl that looked like dragon wings." And so, so yeah, I think that's probably because that stepped me into a different comfort with my knitting. I think that's probably the one I'm most proud of.
Very nice. And I bet it must be really beautiful when you can see other people knitting your patterns. Like that shawl, like to see all the different colors that people choose and the places that they wear it, and or like the skirt you were talking about, to see other people making the skirt you made for your daughter. And
yeah, it really is amazing. I mean, I know how I feel when I take the time to pick out the perfect hat or the perfect shawl or whatever it is, whether I'm knitting for myself or my husband, or, you know, you want it to be something that that person's going to wear. And so it feels good that the pattern was even chosen. But then when I see what people have created out of it, it's amazing. It's really cool. And to know that they're all around the world, you know, that someone in Australia has knit a shawl of mine and, you know, might have worn it this past winter. And it just feels really good.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing. Um, that was another thing I wanted to talk about, like the knitting community and I mean, I know that online there's a lot of people, and in your local area, do you have like a knitting community?
There are a lot of knitters here, and this area is really big for fiber farms also.
Mm.
So there is a lot of fiber in this area. There's a really big festival that usually takes place in October for knitters and spinners and weavers and anyone related to fiber. There's not like, I am more a part of the knitting community online than I am in my local area. And I'm not sure why that is. It's just, that's just the way it's worked out. There's a number of people who get together and do some spinning. And maybe it has to do more with just the time that I have off the homestead,
Mm-hmm.
that I don't have a whole lot of time to leave.
Yeah.
So when I do, it's not necessarily that I want to sit and knit somewhere.
Yeah.
Like maybe I'm going to see a play, or I'm going for a hike or whatever. But yeah, it's a lovely community, and I love that there's so much available here.
Yeah.
That you can get local yarn, you can get local dyes, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Very nice. And online, the community is so big, and there's so many people all over the world connected, and podcasts, and
the community is amazing. I really feel like, I don't know what it is behind it. I've been a part of communities before, like when I was doing CrossFit for a while, or other things where there are worldwide communities. I never felt that same support, I guess, or camaraderie that I feel in this knitting community, as well as I feel like, and maybe it's just the people that I follow or whatever, but I feel like we are revolutionary knitters. Like, this fiber group is ready to make some changes in the world and make it a better place. And that's been really cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's really, really beautiful, and to see so many people like working together and speaking out about like social justice, and just really trying to, I don't know.
Yeah, or donating their time to knit blankets for kids in need, or hats for homeless people, or whatever. Like, it's a very giving community. Yeah.
It's like one big warm woolly hug.
Right.
Oh, totally. Very nice. Very cool. What else did I want to talk to you about? So many things. I feel like I could talk to you for hours and about all of the fiber and herbalism and everything. I remember when I first found your channel, I was so excited because I was like, wow, the natural dyes and the plants and also the knitting. And it was just such like, it was.
Okay, so you have to tell people how we actually connected, though.
Yeah, and it's funny because I just realized that I have my Asheville pen like right here. So yeah, so I was watching Maria's video when you first made your like first video, and I think that you said your last name at some point, and I was like, that was my gym coach's name, like a really special gym coach who was my lacrosse coach for a long time, Coach Musk. And I was like, she kind of looks like him a little bit too, so I wonder if there's any relation here. And I sent you a message, and I was like, do you by any chance know anyone in the New York area? It was your cousin.
Great, right, my cousin. Right, so you're in Spain and I'm in Asheville.
Yeah.
My family's not even from New York. They're from the Boston area. So he just happened to be in New York coaching, and he was your coach.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just think that's crazy.
So crazy. And then even more crazy is that I'm in Spain, but I teach English here. And one of my students was looking for schools to study in the United States. And it turns out he got accepted and chose to go to Asheville. And his family invited me to go with them as the translator and to help him get set up. So we actually got to hang out in Asheville.
Yeah, which was super cool.
Yeah. So the fiber world, it's all knit together. We're all related somehow.
No pun intended. It is all knit together.
All knit together.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny. I feel like I've made connections in the fiber world and things like that. And yeah, it's nice. I'm glad that we have this online place to all come together. And
Yeah.
yeah, very
Okay.
nice. Okay, so I had a few more like just like random questions to ask you.
Okay.
Like, well, first of all, what's your favorite fiber? Do you have a favorite fiber?
I think I do. I mean, well, it depends on what I'm doing. If I'm eco printing, I absolutely love printing on silk. It
Mhm.
really takes the color beautifully. Um, but as far as wearing, it has to be wool. I absolutely love the squishiness, the warmth, the secure feeling of being wrapped in wool. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's interesting because it's like what you prefer to knit with, what you prefer to spin, what you prefer to
Hmm.
eco print, what you prefer to
Yeah.
be wrapped up in. It's all different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and silk, I have to say, because you are dyeing the most amazing shawls, these silk and wool. I'm obsessed with them.
Yeah.
Like all of
Those
these.
have turned out so beautifully.
So
Yeah.
October 3rd, I think, is your shop update.
October 3rd. Yep, at 9 a.m. Eastern time. And I've been working on the shop update since late winter. I was hoping to have it when I came home from Norway, and then the virus hit, and so everything kind of closed down. So it's just been, it was actually, one benefit of having the virus happen is because all of the classes that I was going to teach were canceled,
Mhm.
I was home with no obligations. And so I got to really think about what it is I want to do, what's going to bring me joy, to be able to do it from my heart and not because I need to make 60 sock blanks and 15 silks or whatever, but just what do I really truly want to do. And so I did a bunch of things that I wanted to make. And so I hopefully the things that are in the shop update will be, you'll feel that it's not just like production, but my daughter and I made these little roll-on oils that we so essential oils is another thing that I studied when I started studying herbalism. And so we used oils that are really good for grounding and centering. And we put in a little quartz crystal and we charged them out under a black moon. And
Oh,
like, it just felt so like witchy and magical. And I think I have them.
do you?
Oh, they're over there. Um, but yeah, and they smell so good. And they just make you want to take a breath and sink, like sink into the ground and be in the moment. So
Perfect to keep in your project bag and like
yeah,
have it like when you're gonna have a moment to yourself and do a couple rounds, you can.
yeah,
Very nice.
yeah.
And you'll be having some tea in the shop update as well.
Yep, I have 3 different types of teas. The apple cider donut tea, of course, because that's perfect for this time of year. And then 2 other of my favorites that I drink kind of rotating on a daily basis. One is a mix of roasted chicory and roasted dandelion. And it's just smooth and earthy. And a lot of people like to use it as a coffee substitute.
Oh,
It doesn't have caffeine, but it has kind of that rich flavor. So that's really lovely. And then I made, kind of like an herbal hot chocolate. It has cocoa and chaga and a bunch of other herbs that are really good for your adrenals and for stress. So you can enjoy the hot chocolate at the same time as nourishing yourself. Yeah,
absolutely. Oh, that's so
really.
nice. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like hot milk is like the most soothing thing that you get. Like if
Yeah.
you add that with chaga and everything, like that's what, to like settle someone down if they're, or a
Mm-hmm.
baby that's crying, like some
Yeah.
milk. Oh, wonderful. That's so nice. So you're going to be giving all of these things into the world, and I'm really excited. I'm kind of upset about sharing it on here because then everyone's going to be on the shop update at the same time. We're all going to be like looking at all your stuff, but yeah, the shawls, I think that they're absolutely beautiful, like
Yeah.
the silk and wool and
Yeah. Well, that was the big thing is I love the way eco printing looks on silk, but it's cool, and I
yeah.
don't necessarily want to reach for silk when it's the middle of winter and I want something warm around me. No matter how big it is, it's just not as cozy. And so I found these shawls that were wool and silk. And I thought, well, I'll just give it a try. And I found it at this place that is, it's out in Australia, and she works with women's cooperatives and fair trade and sustainably harvested silk. And like, I just loved um, her way of doing business. And so I ordered 5 of them to see how they worked, and they were absolutely stunning. I really love the way the color came through and the prints were done. And so I immediately went to the website and I was like, I need to get some more of these because these are really pretty. And they weren't there. And I was like, no, what'd you do? Where'd those shawls go? And she said, well, I can't get them because of the virus. So hopefully she will have them again at some point. But
because you only have 5.
Yeah, well, I made 4 for sale, and made the first one I made for me because I was like, I want to see how this works, and I wanted it works right here.
Oh,
I've been wearing it because it's been really chilly.
oh, it's so beautiful.
I don't know if you can see.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really love. Let me see if I can find. Yeah,
It just
the Coreopsis.
It just looks amazing. So luxurious.
It's so cozy.
Oh,
yeah, it feels good to wrap yourself in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the blends, the silk and the wool. Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Okay. What other things? So your favorite fiber? Depends. I know we talked a little bit about plants and everything, but do you have any plants like this week maybe or this month that you've been thinking about that kind of is your favorite these days?
Oh gosh. I know the one that always pops into my head when people ask me if, I have a favorite plant or one that I really connect with is always lavender. And I think that's because it was actually when I was studying midwifery, I went to Dublin to study midwifery. And it was my first time traveling abroad. It was my first time living alone. And I had this tiny little dorm room. Basically, it was in the nurses' quarters attached to the hospital. And there was a little store on the corner. I went out to the store. Oh, there she is. I went out to the store, and right next to the cash register, they had essential oils. And I was like, well, that's cool. Especially in the 90s, that wasn't something that you really saw much, herbs and essential oils out and about. So I grabbed a little lavender, and I loved the way it smelled. So I brought it back to my dorm room and basically got myself a little diffuser and would light that little candle every day. And so all of those memories of that first time of freedom, of learning something that I love, of being in a new country, all of that is in that smell of lavender. So every time I smell lavender, I just get that feeling of peace and freedom and knowledge. And yeah, so it's a powerful one.
That's really beautiful. And I can totally understand that idea of like smell and it, yeah, very nice. I've got my under here and that beautiful. My dog just woke up from his nap and now he's also.
I hear his little tap shoes.
Yeah, he decided he wanted to open the door. All right. Well, I think one last thing I wanted to ask you, and then I'll let you be on your way to do all of your wonderful things. I wanted to ask you if there's anyone that you admire or anyone who's doing interesting work that you would like to recommend here, anyone that you can share with us that doesn't have to be in the fiber world.
So some of the people that I've been really into following lately, it's not actually in the fiber world because spending all this time in my garden, I have pretty big dye gardens and a small amount of food. And I've really enjoyed getting outside and being in the gardens this spring and summer. It's calmed me down and helped me kind of recenter. And so I wanted to learn more about the wild foods that were out here that I didn't even know were edible, like some of the plants, some of the weeds I was pulling up. And so I did a week of eat from the yard kind of thing. And I was trying to specifically focus on plants that I didn't know were edible in the first place, or I wasn't used to. And so one of them is called sochan, or I think it's cutleaf rudbeckia. Milkweed is another one that I didn't realize was edible. I thought it was completely poisonous, and it's not. And so there were a number of things that I was eating from. And with that, I started following a few people on Instagram that have really amazing feeds talking about the foods that are available. One woman, hers is, I can send these to you so you have them exactly. Hers is, I think, 66 square feet. And she actually has a book about, feasting from the wild. She has a 66 square foot patio basically in New York where she lives that's just covered in edibles that she grows. And she also goes out into, the parks, and she forages and talks about all the wild foods that are available around her. And that's really cool. There's another woman who's called Black Forager, who, same thing, always talking about preserving wild foods and great things that she's foraged out in the wild or in her yard or in the woods. And then another one is the Medicine Circle, and she is a foodie as well as an herbalist, and she makes absolutely amazing foods that are sometimes wild foods, sometimes herbal foods. I think the one she posted most recently was some kind of a rose popsicle with dipped in this herbal chocolate and with other herbs on the chocolate. I don't know, it was just looked delicious. So I've been getting inspiration from the three of them and really enjoying their feeds.
Very nice. Thank you. I will ask you. I mean, I'll put them down below. If I can't find them, I'll ask you.
Yeah, I'll send the information.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you. I don't know if there's anything else you want to share about things that might be coming up. We talked about the 3rd of October and
I can't think of it. Oh, I know you mentioned it on your last podcast, but I last year hosted a tea exchange, an herb or tea exchange, kind of like an advent calendar. Starting at the 1st December, you open up different teas and get to enjoy them from different people. What I do is gather names of anyone who's interested all around the world, and I will pair you up with just a small number of people, and you'll send teas or herbs or spices to them, and you get a number back, somewhere around 24 to 26 back. So you have them to open up in December each day. So if people are interested who aren't on Ravelry, I have all the information on my Ravelry page if people want to participate, which is Ninja Chickens. But if you are not on Ravelry, then we can put my email or something in the down bar, and you can send me your information, and I can send you all the details, because it's really fun and it's sweet to enjoy a little tea from someone else each day in December.
Absolutely. Yes. I talked about it in my little video thing. But yeah, that was such a wonderful experience. I met people from all over Europe because I did it last year, and it was so nice every day to open up my little tea, and it was always like the perfect tea for that moment. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was really special. I was like, this is exactly what I would have asked for. So it was really beautiful. And like everyone went above and beyond. Like I had one person who wrote like little poems for each of the days, and and sent just beautiful, beautiful things. Like little notions, and just like the packaging was gorgeous, and like hand painted postcards, and it was a really special exchange. And I'm super excited that you're doing it again. And
it was a lot of fun.
I hope that lots of people sign up. And I can't believe it's September already, and we're thinking about the winter already. Hi, Leaf. How are you?
He's going swimming. We're recording.
That's okay. You can say hello to the world.
Oh, he's out of here.
Okay. Well, I'll let you guys go. But it was so nice to hang out with you for a little bit. And
you too.
Oh,
you
and
too. Thank you so
we'll be
much
in
for
touch.
asking. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Bye.
Take care.
Bye.